Basically what I'm going to share with you is just a little project that I've been working on with another guy named Vasudevadas. I think he's living in New York. And I just met him through the internet. I met him on Facebook, actually. And I created a forum because I couldn't find one out there that was designed to allow the users, the members, to share information with each other that relates to Vedic culture, but from maybe a scientific perspective or a archaeological perspective, history, and the whole idea is just simply to show different ways how Vedic culture is very authentic, and how I could say Vedic culture provides all the answers for society's problems. It always has. It's very original. It's, as far as anyone knows, some people argue, but the Sanskrit language and Vedic culture is, what all people know, is the oldest in the world. And that's interesting, and it shows that so many things originate from Vedic culture. There's actually, I don't know why my computer's taking forever, but let's see what's going on. It was just updating its windows. There's so many things in here I didn't post today, but one thing is very interesting is, like, for example, the game of chess. The game of chess actually originated in ancient India. Wow. And it's got all the castles and horses and stuff. And a lot of people, I think, associate that with, like, maybe old-time European days and dragons and knights and things like this. I don't know. But it's a brilliant strategy game. Today's definitely one of the top strategy games, and it's very good for creative, problem solving, logical thinking, strategy. There's a lot of things that originate in India. The kung fu that the Shaolin monks do, which was a lot of people would say that is actually the oldest martial art in the world. Well, it's oldest, like, documented. It's the oldest that has been written down and kind of passed on to generations to an extent. But actually, the founder of Shaolin Kung Fu is a man from India. And his name is Dao Mo, and you do a little research on him. And he was a master in a martial art in India called Kalari. Just because it's not written down, it's passed on through oral tradition in very small inner circles. So it may not be as prevalent in Shaolin Kung Fu, may not have as much history that people could acknowledge with writings and like forms and things. It's very secretive because it's only passed through the people that teach it in small town in Kerala in India. And I mean, there's some other people that pick it up. But in terms of physical culture, it's one of the 64 arts of Vedic culture. And this number 64 in itself is a very profound number. The I Ching is based off that's an Asian oracle, Chinese oracle. And the 64 number pops up time and time again. 64 just happens to be the number of what are called codons. It's like a structure in our DNA. And there's this symbol that was etched into the stone in ancient Egypt in a pyramid, the Osiris pyramid. They call it the flower of life. And it has 64 vertices in it. And it's based off another shape as well. It's a rounder shape version of a sacred geometry. I hope I say this right. I want to say Metatron's cube. Metatron's cube, which is also based off the Star of David type of idea, which also comes from ancient India. That the inverse pyramids over each other. That was in Vedic culture actually too. So that's interesting. The sacred geometries, the Jewish religion, the esoteric sciences behind Judaism, in what do they call the Kabbalah. You do research and you find that a lot of that, these prophets and great saints and people that like made Judaism what it is. There's a lot of evidence that shows that they actually got a lot of their knowledge from the ancient Egyptians. Spirit science. And it's very interesting about the ancient Egyptians. Folklore, you could call it mythology, you could also look at it as fact, because the universe is so astronomical that there's no reason why these gods and what we call superpowers couldn't exist. There's a mathematical probability to it all. Their religion mirrors and is so identical to Vedic religion in many ways. For example, just the origin of the universe, they say their god came from the lotus flower, just like Brahma came from the lotus out of Vishnu's navel, the Mahavishnu. So that's interesting. So I am going to need to get into the Wi-Fi here. I don't know if I have it saved.
Yeah.
Let's see. Go this. Yeah, I have Skype. Yeah, it's just really interesting. Okay, so I have a lot of things to go over, and basically I'm just going to kind of go down the list of interesting little factoids that myself and Vasudeva have compiled and share with you all these different evidences that point to Vedic culture as being where all the answers are, at least the root of it, everything. Now, he has a slightly different perspective. He believes that, he may have some good findings on this perspective, but Vasudeva found that a culture called Dravidian culture, which he believed originated in Africa, migrated to India and brought Vedic culture to India. That's what he believes. And they're black people. There's a lot of black Indians in South India that look just like Africans. Like they have nappy hair, they are dark-skinned, fluorescent dark. There's and same with the Aborigines in Australia. They share the same physical characteristics in a lot of ways. But then there's evidence that shows, maybe there's some evidence they say that, well, the DNA of Africans, seems to be, shared with people all over the world. Maybe Vasudeva has a point. Maybe he's found some information that shows the Dravidian culture, they have all these artifacts that mirror artifacts found in ancient India as well. Maybe Vedic culture originated in Africa. He is a devotee. He believes this. And he believes that Kemetic culture of ancient Egypt also branched off from the Dravidian culture. So I find that pretty interesting. In terms of artifacts and in terms of history and historical analysis, there's a lot of evidence that shows that the modern scientific model of the history of the world is completely wrong. Because all kinds of scientific evidence and archaeology has been covered up or neglected and just purposely neglected by the greater scientific community, because as soon as something starts to debunk or throw in new theories about the timeline of evolution or the timeline of humanity, the greater scientific community don't want to hear it. There's one devotee, he's a devotee, his name is Michael Cremo, he does a lot of work on this. This is the last post I did here on the day of Brahma. We go to his link. Apparently the day of Brahma was about 2 billion years ago when the last day of Brahma started. And that was at the end of the last Manvantara, which is a period of the 4 yugas, Satya, Tetra, Dvarpa, and Kali. And so at the end of all these yugas, there's partial devastation of the planet and the universe. And so life has to basically start all over again. And it just so happens that correlates approximately with the time when the first bacteria can be carbon dated to. The first bacteria on the planet corresponds with the day of Brahma. So that's pretty interesting.
So is the planet like a big Etch-a-Sketch?
Yeah, just
shaking periods of time.
Good one. It's an Etch-a-Sketch. Oh, hidden archaeology, Michael Cremo. You just go to this forum and you find all this stuff. You can watch these movies. This is like an hour and a half movie. It's amazing. He goes over all these things, like in Texas of all places. Well, Texas happens to have a lot of artifacts that have been found. This one is about, right here. A hammer found in stone, 400 million years old. It's far older than what they thought humans even were around. This hammer was better than stone, so they had tools this old. So totally blows the perspective out of the water. This was a fact. So when they carbon date this rock and it's 400 million years old, what does it say about the modern model of timeline? Forget about it. It's all off.
The devil put it there to trick us.
Yes, tempt us, trick us. Okay, now this is far out. Okay, in one of Michael Cremo's videos, I want to face you guys, but I gotta kind of do this so I can hold the computer up because the cord won't reach. So you can all see up there what's going on. In one of his hidden archaeology videos, he shows bedrock in a town in Texas. Everyone thought it was a hoax. They thought the college kids did it, where there's human footprints and dinosaur footprints in the same rock. Same rock. And the human footprint wasn't a normal footprint. It was like a Bigfoot footprint. It was huge. And so what they did is they eventually brought some archaeologists down. They pulled up new bedrock to follow the tracks, and it kept going. The rock had never been pulled up before, and they were like, what the heck? This is crazy. This doesn't work. This blows our minds. This is not true. This can't be happening. Dinosaurs, humans together on the same planet at the same time? No, this is not possible. But these artifacts are real, and there's other artifacts I posted here. Giant skeletons. They found these in India, in Africa, in Middle East, all over the world. Skeletons of 20-foot tall people. Yes?
Yeah, it's described in the Vedas that in previous yugas, human beings were actually larger, as well as
Exactly.
living for a longer duration of time.
That's what I wrote here too. The Vedic scriptures talk about past yugas where people were taller, how over time we get smaller and smaller along with suppressed consciousness because of forgetting who we are and where we come from. And I mean, this is amazing. So the evolution theory doesn't really work when they've always been showing, they thought we evolved up from apes and gotten taller and taller. When you see the giant skeletons, that doesn't really fit into the whole evolution theory. So you guys starting to see the trend of this type of stuff I'm posting on this forum? The forum is called Evidence of Vedic Culture's Authenticity. And if you find me, Nicholas Guillermo, you see I'm in there. And if you just type in, Vedic Culture's Authenticity or Evidence of Vedic Culture, I'm sure you'll find it. It's at the top of the list there. More forbidden archaeology, another movie, amazing stuff. I did some things on, I like to find things from other cultures as well and other religions and just see what kind of similarities we can find. Apparently, I have some here about the Aboriginal tribes. If anything, they might have been more kind of like Shivites. They used ashes to paint the body, and they were naked, like the Sadhus. They didn't wear clothes. I mean, it's so hot in Australia in many places. But, there's a lot of like tribal dancing, drumming and stuff, and worshiping the earth, worshiping the creation. And so they're pretty interesting. Here's a whole bunch of stuff on Jesus, prophesized in the Vedas. Stephen Knapp wrote some stuff on this.
Stephen Knapp is from Detroit.
Yeah, Stephen Knapp.
You know, the book to India every year.
I have a link here about what stuff in the Bible, all about all these ways that the Bible has been changed in historical fact, like the Council of Nicaea, where they changed it and they took out all these other prophets' writings, and they changed words around in the Bible to even replace the word food with the word meat. And they gave this false perspective that people are supposed to be eating meat. And there's also evidence that shows it really is only supposed to be eating meat out of necessity and not out of choice. And there's plenty of quotations about that we should be eating vegetables and we should, be respectful. Thou shalt not kill. Basic stuff. Basic stuff. Agriculture is here for a reason. Elegua, an African god, he was the trickster and he was a shapeshifter. So kind of like Krishna comes in different forms, different avatars and whatnot. The story of Elegua is that he would come in different forms in people's lives and sometimes just interact with them and give them a choice at some kind of crossroads in their life and seek to guide them. But he's also known as like a little trickster, mischievous. A lot like Krishna. Pretty interesting. This is some of Vasudeva's post on Black Buddha. It's pretty interesting. You gotta watch this. The Naga tribes. And he's talking about, just like a suppression of African cultures or black peoples. And how there's a lot of similarity with the Kemetic culture, and you see like the snake behind the Buddha. They were saying that that's very much like the serpent You see in Egypt a lot. I forget the name of it right now, but also you see this in Vedic culture. You see the big snake behind Krishna and the different avatars of Serpent of Time. He likes to post a lot of stuff about Africa. This is about Tamils. From the Tamil language, I guess is very similar to Dravidian language, apparently. So he's posting some stuff about linkages in the languages of people in India and people from Africa that live in Africa today. I have some stuff on Egypt and African religion. Oh, there's some interesting stuff about the Taj Mahal as a Shiva temple. Well, there's all this information about the Muslims, taking over places and using violence to kind of spread their religion. I read this book about how the Muslims had so many faiths split off and so many wars between them because they couldn't agree on whose writings to abide their lives by, or whose writings or whose sayings are going to be most important in their lives, and they'd fight wars and kill each other over it. Which is interesting. They made some mistakes by doing that because it's interesting in like India, where there's a lot of different faiths and a lot of different paths to spirituality that's accepted, and people understand those different paths, and they have a lot more tolerance because they just see it as another path towards God, and they acknowledge it, and they're not fighting wars with each other and killing each other over it. But there's a lot of evidence to show the Taj Mahal actually may have been or was a Shiva temple, like. Pictures of there's lotuses that were covered up, swastikas on the wall, all kinds of stuff that has been. I mean, you watch some of these videos and they show you the artifacts, so like they try to cover it up or they try to get rid of it or hide it and change it. This is an interesting little post about the scripture that proves that Jesus was a servant of God. Like a devotee is a servant of God. Not to say that he was God, but that he's a servant, yes?
The major revelation this month that, of course, our wonderful mass media would never put forth is that, and I think Bhakta might be pleased to hear this coming from me, there's a huge difference between Jesus of Nazareth and Jesus Christ. Jesus of Nazareth was the guru, the radical, the shifter, the money table changer. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ is the greatest story ever told, as it is in the Bible. And what you're talking about, the accounts of Nicaea, they pontificate as they changed the Bible. They created this figurehead, which denounced anything previous, which says, Jesus would never do. He's a guru. He's trying to bring you to the light, right? So, not many people realize that there's a huge difference between the two, and it's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ is worship of the sun. So he's the risen Savior, like the sun rises and the sun sets. So it's sun worship.
Here's some more stuff on India and Egypt links. Just kind of go through this. Oh, okay, the story of numbers. This is all about how numbers originate in India. And a lot of people call them Arabic numerals, but apparently in the Middle East they call them Indian numerals. So all of Europe, they call them Arabic numerals. In the Middle East, they know it's from India. And there's also information about that. There's all these mathematical equations and interesting things embedded in Vedic scriptures, like pi, for example, is embedded in a scripture. You can read about that in here. This is linkages of all the languages. Well, thanks for being here. So you can look at this table and you can see the slight changes in the languages from some Indian writing and African writings, again, showing more linkages. Here's some more in Egypt and Africa. There's a great debate. A lot of people say, well, maybe, Kemetic culture looks like the oldest, but then there's a lot of evidence that shows Indian culture, or Vedic culture looks like the oldest. And I like to believe that, I like Vasudeva Das's theory that the Dravidians brought Vedic culture from Africa to India, and it just split off in Africa. I like that theory. But the thing is, the Vedic culture is the one where they're still doing the same rituals, they still have the same writings, they passed everything down. You can't find that with ancient Egyptian religion. You cannot find that. I mean, everything, they're just kind of guessing based off what they can figure out these pictographs mean off the walls, and they're just trying to figure out all this stuff again. They don't really know. The rituals, all the stuff is really been lost. Another civilization that just, who knows what happened, but they did something wrong.
Nikko, do you support the ancient astronaut theory?
Yeah, but astronauts, they're everyone, we're all aliens. All these, sure. These, the creators, the demigods, the gods, they did come from outer space. They talk about this.
Yeah.
They came from higher universes, dimensions.
Yeah.
And so, they came down. Are the Greys and those UFOs gods? I don't think so. I think they're just another alien species that's checking us out. But that's just my theory. I think they're just...
You see a definite correlation.
I think they're kind of like what we would be in the future. We'd be going to other planets and looking around and trying to figure out what's going on, what life's doing on other planets. They're kind of like a version of us, or they're scientists, maybe.
But if every living entity is under the same three modes that we're living on here, which is goodness, passion, and ignorance, how tempting would it be to go to another solar system? And the first incarnation of Krishna was Ramachandra. Well, Ra, the Egyptian god who comes from Osiris, did exactly that. I am Ra. I am the Alpha, the Omega. So all living entities in the universe, go to other abodes and places pretending to be God.
I was just saying, there's phonetics.
That's what we're here to do.
Rama and Ra.
Yeah.
Some phonetics that
Yeah.
cross over. More Stephen Knapp stuff. Wonderful videos. This is another one about Dravidians and Africans as one people. The Dravidians have, so much in common with. They are in India as well. They perform. They're part of the Indian culture. Dravidian decipherment of the Indus Valley writings. This is all about artifacts and writings. More layover showing the linkages. I got a lot. I guess we've been doing a lot on India and Africa connections here. Oh, here's a cool one. Vedic science, child development in the womb. They're written about all this in their writings. And it's so scientific. They talk about all the different tissues that are made, the different stages of the embryo. They knew all this stuff, down to a point. I also found out, earliest, at least in this yuga, the earliest surgery was performed in India. So, scientific surgery. I didn't post anything about that in here yet. No. I got some connections with Sikhism. Sikhism is very similar. They're kind of like halfway between Hindu and Muslim, perhaps. But they're unique. They're vegetarians. Oh, this is an interesting one. Okay, well, there's this theory, that, or maybe it's more than theory, but all these religions kind of split off each other or recreated themselves based on other religions. People trying to seek control using religion as a form of thought control to control populations. Like Jesus Christ, for example. There's a lot of evidence to show Rome used that to be able to control their people.
And
this guy does a whole documentary about, you guys have heard of the Freemasons, like the secret societies wanting to control the world. Well, he has this whole thing that shows that they have this whole symbol with the fez, and they have a sickle, and it's very Arabic style. Well, he talks about how the Roman Catholic Church, there's all this evidence to show the Roman Catholic Church created the Islam religion, and the Roman Catholic Church are a bunch of Freemasons too. And they're just another sect of Freemasonry. So, it's very interesting. He goes over all the symbolism, and it's far out film. That's about an hour and a half movie right there. Here's some more stuff on Vedic math. Okay, I'm going to click on this one because this one's pretty cool. How pi is in the Vedas. Right here. It's in the song. It's in the song right here. Gopi Bhagya Madhuvrata Srigiso Dadhi Sandhiga Kalajavita Katava Galahala Rasandara. That's pi to the what numeral? You can go over it. They show you how the different syllables correspond with numbers, and it's perfect. There's more of this though. Pi to the 10th power.
Wow.
Far out.
But the song is about 5 to the 10th power.
Well, it's embedded in the language. Like each syllable is like.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they go over the details here. Each syllable is associated with a number, and mind you, again, the mathematics 1 through 10 came from ancient India, so they knew what they were doing, and they embedded this very amazing stuff in their language. Yeah, there's some stuff on Kung Fu. Okay, here's some stuff on garlic leeks. I have some information on this, how they store toxins in them. You know, Vedic cultures say don't eat the garlics, don't eat the leeks, don't eat the chives. Well, here's some scientific evidence in this link. Where this guy talks about why he doesn't eat them. And I found some evidence. There's another post on one of the back pages by this doctor who's talking about how when they measure EKG waves on people after they've eaten garlic, it's like their brain stops. It's like everything shuts off.
Wow.
Yeah. And and apparently pilots, I don't know if it's still true, but he was saying pilots weren't allowed to eat garlic before they go on flights because they have to be like so, you know, they have to watch everything, they have to be in tune, they have to know what's going on. Here's some stuff on, the number 64, and the number 108 again. Okay, yeah, because there's 64 gopis, there's 64 qualities of Krishna, 64 Vedic arts. And the number 64 is like a sacred mathematical number in the sacred geometries, you know, in the esoteric Kabbalah and the Jewish religion. And it's pretty interesting. And here's some more on the number 108, another sacred number. And the 108, you know, we do 108 beads on the japa. And isn't there another, there's like 108 gopis too. There's like another number of gopis. The 64 is like the most, maybe, forefront gopis. But then there's 108. And that number pops up a lot. Also, Buddhists chant 108 rounds on their beads, from what I understand. Qualities of Krishna. I love this. I'm just going to share this with you anyway. One of the reasons why, I love Vedic culture. This is one amazing thing. I love the qualities of Krishna. Everyone needs to know these and eventually learn them all, and you should know them by heart. 64 qualities of Krishna. This is like a guide map to how we should live our lives. Like, you just learn about these qualities and you want to manifest these in your life. You can't get all of them because you have to be a demigod or a god to get the last ones, right? You know this. You can't glow. Like, I can't just walk into a room and start glowing. That's a quality of Krishna. But all these things are, like, really good. Like, shy. Maybe, shy has its benefits. But artistic, to be fluent, to be strong, to talk pleasingly, to be genius, to be grateful, to be highly learned, to be an expert, to be extremely pleasing, to be gentle, to be self-controlled, to be pure. These are all like amazing qualities, and you can even do a meditation maybe on them. The qualities of Krishna, they're all things that we want to have in our life, and I love those. So what else do we have here? We got a lot of stuff. Sean, thank you for the photo. Oh, wooden clubs. Have you been practicing your clubs, Eric? A little bit? I got Aaron into this. It's a cool exercise. I've been practicing for a while. It's physical culture, again, one of the 64 qualities of artistic qualities. It's from ancient India, and I think it's the best type of exercise you can do. A lot of exercises you can't do after you've eaten. You get a real full belly. These you can do after you've eaten. You can't do sprinting right after you've eaten a whole bunch of food. But you can do this, and you can get an amazing workout. It's cardio. Because it's mainly the arms, but it integrates the back, it integrates the body. Depending on what kind of moves, if you do somewhere you bend over, you could upset your stomach if you're really full, but